All right.
We're live.
We are live. Hi, everyone.
Hello out there.
Out there. We are behind the bow. I hope you guys remember us. It's been a couple of weeks.
Been a little while.
Yeah, since we last broadcasted, but we wanted to make sure that you guys were able to see some of the things that we were posting out there about I guess we could say unhealthy relationships, but our topic is
should I follow him or should she be with me? Right.
All right. And what we are basically talking about is, does a woman want to, or can she give up her power to follow a man? And can a man,
well, can the man lead the woman? Can he lead her correctly?
Yeah, right? There you go. Hi, Angela. Good to see you.
Hi, Angela.
So we want to make sure that we are, giving out the definitions of what we mean by giving out power, right?
Right.
So when we talk about a woman's power, we're talking about her independence, the thing that she holds most, especially in the times that we are in now, where we are getting married a little later. We have we keep calling them millennials. Y'all don't get upset because we were the Generation X, right? So, hey, Curdy, we were Generation X, and so we were the bad ones or the renegades or something like that. So, but at any rate, the millennials are tending to get married later, and so our generation had the millennials. I just kind of figured that out. And what is going on is that we, as women, we've been taught, hey, you are independent, you have your power, you can do it, you can be all of this. And so when you get with a man, can you give that power up? Right.
Are you willing to give it up? I think power is defined by someone's ability to have influence over you. So I would submit to you, when you talk about power, we get a little deeper, and it's, are you willing to give over your heart?
Right.
Because if you give your heart to someone, then you are giving over that ability to be influenced. For those of you with children, think about all that you do for your children, because they have your heart, and you don't even think about it and all the sacrifices that you're willing to make. So from that standpoint of what we're talking about, it can be difficult nowadays because of this, the idea of being so independent. Mm-hmm. We have difficulty of giving over that power, giving over our hearts to one another. And definitely women are very strong today, and I understand and I appreciate that. But when it comes to relationships, sometimes it can be a boundary.
Right.
With the unwillingness to give over that power, give over your heart to someone.
And not just heart, but the trust, my total trust that you're going to take care of me, that you're going to be ride or die. I don't have to worry about the bills. Right. I don't have to worry about, you sneaking off doing things. When I'm there, you're there. When I leave, you're going to leave. And so can a woman give over her power to a man? And so that's one of the things that we're discussing. So one of the issues that we wanted to talk about is how people operate in healthy relationships. So what we're trying to say is, a lot of times what we're finding nowadays, and hey, Cheryl, I see you out there, we're finding a lot of days that people aren't really taught how to operate in a healthy relationships. We're not giving over and telling our children nowadays, you should act like this. You should be like this with your husband. You should be like this with your significant other, whatever. We're not teaching them that. So we're not really existing in healthy relationships. So we're going in it with a distorted view of how to exist in a relationship.
Exactly. I think, in this generation in particular, the fundamental definition of what a family is has changed so much. And because of that, there's a lack of knowledge as far as what a healthy relationship looks like. And God bless all the single parents out there. But when we're missing that traditional nuclear family, what happens is you got young men that grow up that never knew what it was like to have a father. Therefore,
Right.
they don't know what it's like to be a father.
Right.
You've got young women that might not have had their mother around even, so she doesn't know what it's like to be a mother, and vice versa. If a young man doesn't see the mother or doesn't see the father, either role, how can they know what it's like to be a good father? How could they know what it's like even to treat a woman in a healthy relationship, in a healthy marriage?
Yeah, you're right. Now, Angela just wrote, she said, if a man is truly following and submitting himself fully to the Lord, it should be easy to be, I can't see that, submit her power over to the man. Now, I totally agree with that if she is following the Lord. So what happens to the ones that aren't following the Lord? What happens to the ones that are just in relationships because they don't even know the Lord? And so where does the premise come in with that about submitting to a man? If I've never been taught that, if no one's ever told me how to do that, especially when we get into talking about our single women who are raising up children. And when we are by ourselves, the first thing we're doing is saying, hey, I did it. You can do it by yourself. You are strong. You are, a strong woman. I want you to go out there. You don't depend on no man. And then what happens? They get into relationships and they want to lead and not be led. Would y'all agree with that?
Yeah, definitely. I think this also, when you talk about that word submitting, it can have a negative connotation to it. And you think about being submissive, and that's not the same as submitting.
Right.
And like you said, when we talk about the man submitting himself to God and the woman therefore finding it easy to submit herself to him, that idea of being submitted has different definitions for different people.
Right.
And people look at that. One might think being submitted is X and another might think it's Y. So you have to even have that discussion about what that means.
Exactly.
Does that mean that I am going to listen to everything you say? No, I don't believe that, because a true man of God understands that woman is not his slave. It's not his personal servant.
Right.
He understands that when we talk about Ephesians, talking about the man being the head, and I know it's not a theological discussion, but it goes on to talk about the man also sacrificing himself the same way Christ sacrificed himself, because it says that the man should love the wife as Christ loved the church.
Right.
And that's all about sacrifice. So that's a whole nother level.
Right.
But definitely today's society, in the teaching of independence, is also forgetting the idea of that submission and understanding, or even believing that the man should be the priest of the home. That's a discussion that I think definitely needs to happen.
It really does. And so, we just have a whole lot of issues to where we can't get into even a place where, hey, I need to be, submitted. I want a strong man to lead. And you know what? Some want a strong man to lead, but don't want to give over to letting a man to lead them. Because the minute, you're in it, and hey, Danquin and Deirdre and Mona, hey, you guys, I see you out there. Also Ronald Belton, hey, sir, pastor. But, we kind of get out there and we want it, but then we snatch it back, as soon as we feel like they're not doing something, like driving a car, right? Saying, I want this man. Oh, drive me. Oh, you're turning left. Don't turn left.
You want them to lead until they do something that you don't like.
Then you will pull it back. And so, it's those conversations that you have to have in putting that trust that says, I trust, I love you, and I believe that you love me enough to lead me, and then so I'm going to be submitted. Now, the other issues that we kind of wanted to point out as to why we are getting into these relationships that aren't necessarily the ones that we should. Hi, Lisa.
Hey, Lisa.
I seen Lisa in a long time. Is that we can't find compatible mates. We don't look for compatible people anymore. We just look for someone that, they like me, they look good to me, I want to be with them, and we don't have the same values, we don't have the same morals, we don't have the same upbringing, we don't have these things that exist. And so when we start bumping heads, we feel like I can make you, do the same things that I like, and you should follow the way I like to do things. And what's the problem? The problem is you didn't grow up the same way. The problem is you don't have the same ideals. If I grew up in the hood and all I knew how to do is fight, and you grew up in, on Fancy Street and all you know how to do is be fed, how do you ever know how to kind of sit back and wait to strive to have a meal? You just don't know these things. And so trying to get into relationships with someone that is not compatible to you, it doesn't work. And so we wonder how we get into these unhealthy relationships. Would you agree?
I agree.
Yeah.
And I think to your point, because of that incompatibility, what we do many times is we believe that we can change that person, right? And we go into it with the idea that we're going to change them. And you need to understand that you can't change anyone. Now, they can care and love for you enough that they are willing to change themselves for you. But that's different than me forcing a change on you. And that's what causes a whole lot of problems in the relationships. We get in and we know Sally likes to do this. And we think that when we get in there and once we get married, a lot of times we say, they'll change. They'll stop doing this and they'll stop doing that. And then we get upset when they don't. Right? And they get upset because you're upset with them for not changing. And they're saying, well, this is how I am. This is what I am.
That's right.
So I think because of those incompatibilities, sometimes we don't look far enough ahead to realize that everybody's got a list of things that they're willing to deal with and they're not willing to deal with. And sometimes we, maybe out of habit, maybe because we love the person, we feel that, okay, even though I know I can't stand it, I'll grow to be able to stand it. That
doesn't work.
Yeah, that typically doesn't work. And that causes problems in the long run. But part of, like I said, developing these healthy relationships is having those conversations with your significant other to make certain that you both understand what you're willing to do and what you're not willing to do.
Right.
We're scared to have those conversations because we think we're going to run the person off.
Right.
And we can never be scared of communication.
Thankful said, can you counsel me? We got you. And hey, welcome, Pastor Karen. It's good to see you out there. But I one of the things that we do is we compromise. What we see in a lot of them when we counseling people is that they have made a compromise to be with the person that they're with. We just talked about incompatibilities. We ignore those incompatibilities that are there, and we say, we can kind of grow to love each other. We can grow to these things. And sometimes we misjudge like and strong desire for love, and we kind of go out there and jump into it and say, I want to be with this person and this is my, life. And what we're finding is people are immediately jumping into long-term relationships after knowing each other for a month or 2 months because we're saying, this is the person that I've been waiting for. How do you know? Somebody out there tell me, how do you know that this is the person you've been waiting for in 2 months? Now, if God speaks to you, I'm with it. I got it. We're okay with that. If God tells you that's the person. But if you just feeling a strong desire and and your loins are just burning for a person, you might want to check that one.
You know what? I think part of the problem is, particularly with millennials in today's society, everything's immediate.
Right.
Everything's like that.
Microwave.
We want to microwave, and we want to jump into relationships the same way without taking the time that it really takes to get to know someone. They've kind of lost the art of learning one another because it takes time. Like you said, you really can't get to know someone in a month. Right? Not really. I'm not saying that you can't decide that you've liked this person and you have some things in common. But listen here, I'm here to tell you, I can keep a whole lot of stuff hidden for a month.
Month.
Come on. You wouldn't even know I went to the bathroom in a month. You wouldn't know.
Y'all don't even fart in front of each other.
So you can keep a whole lot hidden in a month.
I'm sorry.
But in today's society, we want everything now.
Right.
We want that relationship that somebody's developed over 5, 6, 7, 10 years. We want that in several months.
Right.
And that is causing a problem. That's causing us to jump quicker and move a bit faster
Right.
than we should. And I understand there's a lot of other reasons for that as well. In the church, even you have situations where we want to stay celibate, we want to stay faithful, we want to stay holy. So we get in relationships, and we're 18 years old, and we've got those yearnings, we got these things running on. So we jump into the relationship, and as soon as we get in that relationship, we decide we need to get married. Right. So we're 19 years old, we're getting married, we're starting families, and you really don't know yourself at 18 and 19 years old. So what happens is, over the course of time, you're changing. The way you think changes, because technically speaking, your mind isn't even completely developed at that point in time. And this is also another thing that leads to these unhealthy relationships. And that's not a thing that you went into really thinking about, but it's one of those things that happen because we're moving way too fast in a lot of cases.
I mean, talking about the microwave relationships again, we get into them and we're finding that we're bringing blended families together, and with that, you have kids, I have kids, we get together and we figure, hey, it's going to work. It'll work, but it doesn't. I mean, it just, again.
It doesn't.
It doesn't. And so now you got 4 screaming kids in the background, right? And then you two are screaming at each other. And it's very, very difficult to say that you have a healthy relationship over there because you've not taken the time to get to know one another. We used to tell people that when you get married, please wait like a year to 2 years before you have kids, because you just need to learn each other. There's a whole lot of things. And my saying was always this: when you say I do, it does. Everything comes out. And so therefore you don't know this person. That's the things we used to have problems. I always talk about it. Earl, he just seemed, he was the stars and the moon. And then all of a sudden I would see his pants on the side of the bed. Just hated it. And it was the stupidest thing, but it bothered me the most. And I've never seen it. And I've been with him since I was 17 years old. It was so detrimental to me. But what I'm saying is all of it just kind of flew out, and it just was an issue for me. And so had we just had these kids, we had Alex, of course, but had we started bringing kids into the mix, I would not have learned to deal, or we would not have learned how to deal with these things, these little idiosyncrasies and these little issues that we have. And it goes on to people that are catching or getting into relationships later in life. So you want to talk about that one? Because that's
people get in relationships later in life.
Yeah, when you get older.
Because at that point now, so you're 40, 45, and just deciding to get married for the first time. Even we've seen couples there. And at this point now, you're kind of really setting your ways. So that's a whole nother set of issues, because now you're used to being an adult single for 2 decades, 2.5 decades. How then, at this point, do I combine my life with another person that's been used to doing things their way for 2.5 decades? It can be a crazy transition, trying to go from all I needed to worry about was me and maybe my kids that are grown at this point, and now having to, I need to check in. I need to let such and such know that I'm going to be here. I need to let them know I'm going to be there. I need to let them know I'm not going to be home. That can be a tricky transition as well. We've seen couples who are really set in their ways. And I think when you were talking about compromise, now I didn't want anybody to get confused and that you don't compromise in a relationship yourself.
Exactly.
She's talking about compromising maybe your values and your ideals for the relationship. But don't confuse that with having to compromise in the relationship.
You have to do it.
You've got to be willing to do it. Anybody that believes that they're going to be in a long-term relationship and are not going to be willing to change, that relationship is not going to do well. It's not going to survive. And I know I mentioned before that she can't make me change. However, because I love her, I am willing to change. And there is a difference. And you have to be willing to change to have a successful relationship.
And that's interesting that you say, because we tell a lot of our ladies, and so ladies, I say this, he doesn't say this, but I tell you, you have to allow and get to a point where your man wants to change for you. You can get him there. He loves you enough. You're doing enough for him that he wants to do it all for you. If you're sitting there and I want you to do this, I want you to do that. No, he's not going to do it. You're not going to make me be out of a man. You're not going to take me out you're not going to do all of that. But if I am loving and if I am nurturing to him and if I am doing the things that he loves and he wants me to do for him, then he's going to be the best that he can be. People used to look at Earl, used to make me upset. Oh, he's such a wonderful husband, blah, blah, blah. He's a wonderful husband because I'm a wonderful wife. That's what I would tell him.
Right.
Right? Don't get it twisted. Right. But at any rate, so we're talking about just kind of coming out and understanding where we are getting into these unhealthy relationships and trying to make things work because we want to be married. We love the idea of marriage.
Right. We love the idea of marriage. In many cases, we have really no understanding of what it takes to make a marriage successful. Because, listen, marriage is hard work. It's not for suckers, it's not for punks. I always say that.
Yes, sir.
Marriage, I saw Dankman mention earlier that marriage is another job. And to some degree,
right,
it very much is so. It's one of the most difficult things I think you'll ever undertake, second probably only to parenting. But it's also one of the most rewarding things that you can ever have in your life if you can find a way to make it healthy.
Right.
Because no one wants to be miserable.
No, not at all.
And you might not think, but we've seen people sit in marriages for a decade or more, absolutely miserable.
Yes.
Can't wait for the children to finally get out the house so that they can go their separate ways.
The last child turned 18.
Right, because they call themselves staying around just for the children. It actually ends up being the only thing they have in common at some point.
Right.
And they hardly speak, if not to speak about the children.
Right.
We've got to find a way to communicate, to develop these healthy relationships so we don't even put ourselves in positions to allow our ill content to just fester and grow to the point where we don't want to be in the same rooms with one another, because it's surprising how these relationships can just deteriorate. You start off day one. I mean, you're the happiest. You love. You can't keep your arms off one another. And a year down the line, it doesn't seem like a long time, but a year down the line, you can hardly stand to be in the same room with the person.
Y'all keep commenting. Y'all keep bringing it in with us so we can hear what you have to say about this, because we do want to, have you to weigh in and, just kind of bring us and get us on to make sure we stay on track with this. All right. Now, the other thing that we wanted to bring up is, so we said, should I follow him? But it's also, should she be with me? Right. So that thing is from the man's perspective. So you want to talk from that perspective?
Well, so should she be with me? Is she the right person for me? Is she the one I even desire? A lot of times women might not think, but guys get in their mind too of that perfect mate, right? Yeah. So you got your ideas. She's got to look this way. Her body's got to be this way. All of these things have to be going on, and a lot of times we focus too much on physical appearance, right? Yeah. And we understand that beauty is fleeting, right? And in the end, I've never seen a relationship where the beauty of either individual kept them in the relationship and kept them loving one another. It doesn't happen.
It does not.
We've got to decide what are the important things, the truly important things that we want in a spouse. That's man and woman. Men, you got to decide, is it all about how she looks? Or is it about what's inside? Now, listen, I'm not saying you want a woman with an elbow on her forehead. That's not what I'm saying. Of course, you want somebody that's physically attractive to you. Right. All I'm saying is we have to find a way not to be so, what's the word I'm looking for? Not materialistic. What's the word? We have to be not so concerned with outward beauty, right?
Yeah.
As far as and more concerned with what's on the inside of one
Right.
another. Take a look at things about what do they have that's going on with them as well, to make sure that we are compatible. If you've got two people coming from two completely different home lives, if that's going to be a source of
It's
contention.
going to be. Y'all
And not
say
that you
it's
can't
not,
make it work, but it goes back to
Jesus,
communication. And you
yes.
have to have those conversations
Yeah.
because people have different ideas of how a relationship would work. You might think something that's common sense to you might not be common sense to them
Totally
because
different.
they don't have anything in common.
Right.
They've never experienced the things that you've experienced. They've never gone through the life that you've gone through. And those sources of contention come up because we haven't taken the time to communicate. Even when they rear their head, we don't want to say anything for fear many times of hurting someone's
Right,
feelings
right.
or for fear of maybe even losing that person because you're scared of how they're going to
Right,
react.
they're gonna react. They're gonna leave you or what have you. So, and it just. I mean, I understand that we just want to be together, but we have to kind of take a step back so that you can stay together. Be together is fine, but staying together is for a lifetime. So we talked about how women have issues with submitting their power, right? So let's talk about how come men have problems committing. We look, but Earl and I kind of talked about that a little bit, and we go back to some of the things that they have grown up with. So now we're talking about a father. He had talked about a father figure in their life. We know that a father is the first date that a girl has, right? That's the first person she ever learns to date. Well, the father is also the only person that a guy or outside of having a mentor that learns how to be a husband and a father. So if that's missing, then we have that issue. But what I'm also finding is we as women overcompensate for our men, our boys that we're raising, because we want to shelter them. We feel bad that they didn't have a man in their life. And so we don't teach them that they need to stand up for a woman. We don't teach them that they need to do the things that they need to do in a relationship. And they need to, how they need to act and react in a relationship because we're so busy just sheltering them. I mean, think of Maury Povich. I mean, little ignorant mommies out there saying, that's not your baby. That's not your baby. You supposed to turn around and say, boy, if this is your baby, each one of my boys, I've raised 3 of them. Each one of them know if you get somebody pregnant up in here outside of marriage, she's going to know where you are, have a copy of your birth certificate, your social security card, and every place that you are going, I'm going to know, she's going to know. But we do not give them, we don't hold them accountable for that kind of stuff, right? So, I know I talked a lot on that one.
I know we're coming up on 30 minutes, but to address when we're talking about commitment issues for men, in a lot of cases, it's about trust. And we grow up as men, most of us, you're taught not to be weak, not to show weakness, right? So, but when you decide to trust, that's puts you in a very vulnerable position.
Yes, you're giving your heart
You're giving
out
your
there.
heart out.
Yeah.
And if you're giving your heart, you're making yourself vulnerable to being hurt and harmed.
Right.
And most men find it difficult to put themselves in that position, particularly if they've been in a relationship before, they've tried that, and they've gotten their heart broken.
Right.
Yes, men do get their heart broken as
they
well.
do.
And then that they take that baggage into the next relationship because they say, no, this won't happen to me again.
Right.
I won't be in this position again.
Never
and
again.
That's one of the biggest reasons why men do have trouble committing, and they might not tell you that, but a lot of men have a lot of trust issues. Stemming from that idea of we have to remain strong and we cannot be weak under any circumstances.
And especially with the fear of when they finally are vulnerable to a woman and she throws it back up in his face, just like, he's telling her, I was a little rough out there for me today, and I had issues, and then she turns around, instead of saying, baby, you can do it, you can make it. Boy, how weak are you? You gotta get yourself together. I mean, just that is insanity. We are missing a lot of comments I see. Y'all, I'm sorry they're not kind of going up. Hey, Keith. Hey there. But it's just there, and you're right. It has to be accountability. Deirdre said, you can't throw the stuff back up in his face and then say, you're not leading me, you're not taking care of me, you're not doing that kind of thing. So then a man says, well, and it's hard for them to commit. Yeah. And so it takes a long time for them to commit because they love you, but you're also crazy, right? It's just like, I don't know if I want to do this. And so you saying, well, I've been with you for 8 years. Why I don't have a ring? You might want to check what's going on between y'all two that you don't have a ring. So we just wanted to kind of bring that out on those, on those things where we are just kind of making men feel, no, they don't want, they think like we do too. I don't want to follow him. Maybe she shouldn't be with me either.
Maybe she should.
I think we kind of got everything that we wanted to get out of here. Also, we just wanted to remember those of you who are out there looking for and in unhealthy relationships, do not stay in an unhealthy. First of all, stop hearing "I'm sorry" 50 million times and thinking that relationship is one that is for you. We gotta have some kind of, I don't want to call it self-respect, but what do you want to call it? You gotta have some kind of power about you, because you have to know that you deserve more than that you have to know that you are worth more than that. No one's going to give you more than what you expect from them. I always tell people, you have to teach people how to treat you. Right. And if you don't teach them, they're going to treat you however they feel like treating you. And that is even in a relationship. So please, by all means, no once, twice, 3 times. I'm sorry. Once, twice, 3 times, and all through the relationships is definitely going to happen. But every time, something's wrong, and you probably need to get up out of there. What you think?
Definitely. I think that's probably a good topic. Maybe for next time.
Yeah, just a little bit. I like that. She said, tell them boundaries, enough is enough. You're absolutely right. Hey, LaFonda, we didn't see you out there, and we are so glad that you're out there. But you guys, we want you to make sure that you're doing and being healthy in your relationships and your marriages. Make sure that you are loving one another. And we always tell people to fight. If you're going to have an argument, don't debate facts. Talk about your emotions. Come from a space of your emotions. When you did this, it made me feel. You can't debate my emotions. You can debate my facts. So, always remember that. And women, the last thing that I'm going to give to you about your man is that you can be behind him and push him. You can be beside him and hold him up, but do not stand in front of him, pulling him, because you may be taking him in a place that he is not destined or ordained to go. Y'all remember that from me, all right?
Amen.
All right, so we are great. Thank y'all for joining us. We are well past our time, and we hope
check us out on the Facebook.
That's right, please, y'all, please.
Facebook,
our website is up. We are excited. We have a blog running now, and we're posting out there on Instagram and Twitter. I don't know what's going on with Twitter, but we're going to get it out there. But get us out there, you guys. Share this link with people. Do whatever you have to do, and whatever we can do for you guys, please let us know.
YouTube coming.
YouTube is coming. So please let us know. And we love you guys. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for supporting us. Keith, we're going to see you real soon. We're coming to Baltimore. We'll be there soon.
Bye.
Love you guys.
Out.
All right. Bye-bye.